going live right now.
All right, and we are. Welcome everybody to Hump Day Hangouts. This is episode 268, and today is the 2nd of January 2020. This is the first Hump Day Hangouts of 2020. We shifted it a day, so if you're watching this and wondering why we're doing it on a Thursday, we figured that just like us, a lot of people are probably going to be taking the first off, and so we're here on the 2nd day of January and going to kick things off. So if you're watching, one, thank you for watching. Two, go ahead and type your questions in. We knew we weren't going to get a lot of questions because we shifted it by a day, but we just got a handful of questions, and we've got some from the Facebook group that we're going to answer. And then if we kind of wrap things up, we wrap things up. So if you do have a question, like I said, just go ahead and get it on there. So before we dive into stuff, we've got some announcements, but I want to say hi to the guys. It's the first time we've, I guess, talked in 2020. So Bradley, how you doing in the new year and decade?
Oh man, I'm happy to be here. It's I'm excited about this year. I think it's going to be a good year. So everybody tries to have New Year's resolutions. I try not to really set New Year's resolutions. I'd set more targets or goals. And I've got a lot of goals that I'm trying to hit over the next couple of months with my real estate business, especially. So I'm really looking forward to a holiday season being over now, and I can get back to work.
Nice. Hernan, how about yourself?
Good, man. All good. Had fun with family during the New Year's. Excited for this year, for this decade. Actually, last year was amazing. It was really, really good. So I'm expecting 2020 to be even better and keep on helping a lot of people like we are used to do every week and every day, pretty much in Semantic Mastery. So excited to be here.
Awesome. All right, Chris, how about you, man? How was New Year for you, and how you doing?
Yeah, super good here. Weather is getting colder and it's actually getting foggy and stuff. So yeah, other than that, 2020, like I already kicked it off like pretty crazy. I'm getting flooded with new leads and I barely can keep up. I guess everybody wants to get rid of the tax bills or lower them for 2020. But yeah, good problem to have. Well,
good.
How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. I was traveling, visiting some friends for Christmas, and so we flew back on New Year's Eve, and so took it real easy. Had just a relaxed time, and then now just getting back in the swing of things, and like you guys starting to get back in and getting the routine back and going. So for me, that's been good, especially after, I don't know about you guys, man, my friends and family just go crazy with like baking and making food, and I don't have a hard time putting down the cookies and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to getting back into not only a work routine, but just getting back. Already been running and hitting the gym, and it's going to take a little while to cut the pounds I put on over the holiday.
I hear that.
Oh man, Marco, how about you, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Holidays are crazy when you have 3 little kids. Mine are, my daughter's, the youngest one is 14 months. Then I have a 7-year-old son and an 8-year-old son and 11-year-old daughter. And so they keep you really freaking busy during the holidays because it's this and that, and let's do this and let's do that. And it's just, they keep you just running around. So even though I worked less, I was busier than I usually am when I'm working, because they will drive you crazy. So anyway, it's just, I'm like Brad, I'm glad to be able to get back to work.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, speaking of the holidays, Marco, we were, you were doing a little bit of all of us, yourself, other people as well, were helping with your charity. How did things go with that?
We're doing really well. That's ongoing. Actually, it doesn't end. What we do is we do an end of the year and in January, a big drive to try to get as many kids into school as possible. We try to give them opportunities, right? A chance to go to school with everything paid, everything that they need. We also reach out to the families, try to help the families. We tutor. We just do a whole lot to try to keep these kids in school. And in fact, if they make it through the school program, which is of course grade school and junior high and high school, then we get them into technical training, and they do have a job waiting for them once that's all done. So it's not as if they're just going and getting an education just for the sake of getting an education, which isn't a bad thing, right? Going, studying, learning about the world, about things is not bad in and of itself, but this has a purpose in that There are companies in Costa Rica that where these jobs are in high demand, and we're meeting that high demand with what we do. So it's really interesting. It's really good. The charity has done well. It can never be enough.
Yeah.
Right. It's because the more money that we have available, the more that that we give away, of course. But yeah, we're doing really good. I still have 2 more charity webinars that I am going to do, so they're not finished, and I might do a third one because I think that it's needed. I want people to clearly understand what it is that's going on, what we've been preaching literally for 4 or 5 years about entities, where this is headed, because where it's going, and how Google is going to do away with yes, I'm going out there and saying it. Google will get rid of links, and the way that they're doing is through quantum computing. Right? Once they go quantum, they can get chips to communicate without linking to each other. I mean, that's already taking place. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow or in 5 years, although I do expect it within the next 5 years for that to be able to happen. They will have to retweak their algorithm so that they can now ignore the link spamming, and we can start some new fun type of spamming, because you can always spam whatever they do. We're there, and we're going to totally manipulate whatever it is that they do. We have the math; they can't avoid it. But I mean, it's coming. And just like we told you way back when we started, how it was all about entities. It was the semantic web. We talked about it a whole lot, how it was moving from Web 2.0. It's not as if the Web 2.0, and now the semantic web. It's that the semantic web didn't do away with everything else. We still have pillars upon which everything is founded. And in order to change the way that it's founded, the way that Google sees things, they have to go and change their algorithm. And so that's the next big thing, and the one that I'm planning for, and what we're working towards is it's meeting them at the past when that happens, just like we did a few months ago when they finally came clean with what we're doing with BERT and neural matching and entity. It's all about entities, guys. It's all about branding. We've been telling you forever. It's about branding, and it's about making your brand associated with the keywords in your niche so that you become the keyword for the niche. That's it. Now, not everybody can do it. It's impossible. But if you're not working towards that, if whatever it is that you're doing is not working towards that, then you're down a dead end road. It stops. You're gonna hit a wall, and that's it. Brand plus keyword association is where it is right now. Now I know I just said a mouthful, and I know, and it's really hard to get these complex ideas in place, but that's what we do in the webinars. That's what we try to teach people about the principles of the web, what's involved, and how it is that you can approach all these things with what I'm calling now worryless SEO. We have the SEO shield in place. We don't worry about Google. We let Google worry about us.
So I know you said you've got a couple more webinars, Marco, and if people aren't aware of this, how can they get in on these webinars? Because these aren't going to be publicly broadcast.
No, they won't. I'll post the donation page in the event, and they can go and donate. I don't ask for any amount. You know how I say it. Your heart will tell you whether you want to donate, and your wallet is going to dictate how much you donate. How much is up to you. Your heart is going to tell you whether you're going to donate or not, and that's it. And if you want to, I'll post the link. Go donate, and then send. I'll post the email in there too. You send proof of donation, and we will invite you to the webinars. It's that simple.
Awesome. Good stuff. Yeah. And for everyone who took advantage of that over the holidays, that was awesome. Had a lot of people do that at semanticmastery.com/Christmas or mgyb.co/Christmas. A lot of great deals. People took advantage of that, and it's a win-win. People gave to charity, and then they also got a discount on product services as well as training. So we really appreciate everyone participating in that and getting some great deals as well. Real quick before we hop into the questions, I just wanted to say, Hernan, we're finishing up some things that you've been talking about for a month or two, and we're getting ready to do that. And the people who took advantage of the Semantic Mastery Holiday Bundle are going to get access to, I'm going to call it 2XA to keep things short. But for those who didn't get into it with the bundle, because they're going to get it for free as part of the bundle, can you tell people a little bit about what's coming up here later in January?
Yes, 100%. Thank you, Adam. So, so the idea, we ask a couple questions to most of our audience, right? People that are watching the Hangouts, people that are subscribed to YouTube, people that are on our list, people on our different Facebook groups. And the number one thing that came up was like, the question was, what is your challenge, right? For 2020, what is your challenge when it comes to growing as a digital marketing or digital marketer or digital marketing agency owner and whatnot? And the number one thing that came up was getting new clients, right? Getting new clients and charging those clients more money. So what we decided to do, and this was while POFU Live 2019 was happening, we decided to launch a new program called Double Your Agency. So 2XA or 2X Your Agency for short. And on that program, what we're going to be doing is to show you how we are not only getting more clients for our agencies, you know, respectively, each of us have our own clients, our own clientele that we serve and whatnot, how we are getting those clients, but also how we are charging those clients more money, right? The motto behind Double Your Agency is that you can double the revenue that you're generating with your agency, with your digital marketing agency, whether you have like a small team, whether you're on like your own like team, your own one-man band, or you have like 30 VAs working, it doesn't really matter. You can double your revenue by working with this program of the next 90 days. So with the next 90 days, we're going to be working with Bradley hand to hand as to how we prospect, how we generate results for clients, and how we scale, meaning the processes that we're putting together to actually get help that we need so you can make more money while working less. So that's the whole motto behind Double Your Agency. We're trying to cater to, I would say, a broader community of digital marketing agency owners. So that's going to be local SEO, but it's also going to entice local PPC, Facebook ads, branding, you know, and all of the stuff that you need to actually leverage your image to actually reach your revenue goals in 2020. So that's basically what's coming. It's going to be pretty awesome.
Well, there we go. I'm learning how to unmute myself again. We don't do Hump Day Hangouts for a couple of weeks and I can't talk. So just wanted to say to everyone, I'm putting the link on the page, but you can go to 2xyouragency.com. So 2, the letter X, and then youragency.com. And you'll be notified and get early access. We'll definitely have a special deal for people who take advantage of signing up early. So with that said, you guys, I don't want to keep going too long. Let's hop into the questions. And then it looks like we've got a few more on the page. So yeah, let's do this. Let's start rolling.
Okay, cool. I'll grab the screen. All right, you guys should be seeing my screen, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
First question is, what is the best to syndicate blog posts through RSS feed? Let's see, short excerpt, blog post content, or the entire long form content? Okay, that's a good question. I recommend using the long form, like, so the full post. So that's an RSS setting. I think that's in the reading settings. So WordPress settings, general, or WordPress settings reading, I think, is where you can edit that to display either the full text post or just an excerpt. I always like to use the full post because when you're syndicating content to the blog properties in the syndication network, which would be at least the 3 default blog properties are Blogger, WordPress, and Tumblr. And out of those, I think it looks a lot better if you're syndicating a whole post as opposed to just an excerpt, because then it kind of truncates the post on the syndicated properties. In other words, it's just a summary with a link back to the post URL as opposed to the full body of it. So I prefer to have the full text or the full post displayed, but it really is up to you. And it also depends on what it is that you're trying to accomplish, because here's the thing: if you're going to be hammering exact match keywords as anchor text in your blog posts to link back up to your internal pages on your site, which is what we teach in Syndication Academy, right? Which is use your blog from your money site to publish posts that have a contextual link that links up to the pages on the site that you're trying to rank, especially if you've got proper silo structure. So what happens is if you are syndicating the entire post, but you're constantly hammering away with the same anchor text over and over and over again to a particular inner page, then you may want to select summary, so that you're not actually syndicating that internal link. In other words, if it's not the full body of the post that's being published on the syndication network properties and it's just a summary, then the link is going to point back to the post URL. Does that make sense? As opposed to having all of the links within the post itself actually being republished also. But if you're following our advice and using one branded syndication network, so tier 1 branded syndication network for blog syndication, and as long as you're varying your anchor text for your internal links, you shouldn't have any problems whatsoever. So again, I prefer doing the full text post. But it really is up to you, and it also depends on what it is that you're doing, like how you blog and that kind of thing. It was a good question though. Does anybody else have any comments on that?
No, just totally agree.
Okay. Moving on. Is there a way to find the MR, which is the machine readable entity ID or something like that? Is there a way to find the MR EID in Google Knowledge Panel, as I can't seem to find it, and I'm sure I could before, or has Google changed? Yeah, I believe there has been a change. So I was actually looking at this because I have the way that there was one way that I know of that used to be this, I don't know if you guys can see it in my browser up here, but it says get the MREID. This was a bookmarklet that you could drag up to your bookmarks bar here. And it used to work where if you click that, it would right here where it would say MREID, it would show you the MREID for the entity if it had one, but now it's showing as undefined. And so if you just do a quick search for how to find the MREID in Google, you'll see that this was the bookmark that I was talking about right here. You would drag that up to the your bookmark bar, and then you would just click on it when you have a Google SERP that displays an entity in the knowledge graph. However, that's not working for some reason. And and I even just replaced it by a moment ago while Adam was talking, and it's still not working. So there must have been some sort of change. However, let me point out a couple of other things from that same Google search for how to find MREID. If you click the upbuild.io and wordlift.io, there's some pretty good articles here about MERID. So if you guys want to find out more about it, that kind of stuff, you can just click through and read these two articles. Also, there is the developers.com, or excuse me, developers.google.com, the knowledge graph reference REST VI API. So in other words, the knowledge graph search API, it's inside the developers console in Google. If you go over there and type in, if you type, you go over there to, or excuse me, into here, and then under the query section on the right-hand side, you just type in the entity name, right? Then you'll see over here, it's going to pull in, this is the result. So let me just refresh and we'll start this over so you can see what I'm talking about. All right. So over here where it says query, you type your string in. And so I'm going to use mine that I was just using. So Big Bamboo Marketing. Okay. And then hit execute. And you'll see if you scroll down on the side, I know it's probably small on your end, guys, but if your brand, if the company or whatever it is that you're searching for is an actual validated entity in the semantic web, it should show a knowledge graph ID, which is, as far as I know, and I may be wrong on this, is the same as the MREID. But it has to have one. In other words, it has to be a recognized entity in order for it to have a knowledge graph ID, which I think, again, is, and again, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the same as the MREID. And if you scroll down, you'll see it. It's right here. It's where it says add ID, but it says KG : and then if I'm going to put this on a notepad file so you guys can see it a little bit bigger. This is what it's showing as the KG ID right there. Okay. So that's the knowledge graph ID, which again, I believe is the exact same thing as an MREID. All right. So this is the actual format of how you would add that right there. So all you would do is take this part of the URL, copy that, and you're going to add your KGMI or your KGID to the end of that, and to right there, and then that'll give you the actual format of the URL for your MER ID, right? So just so you can see what I'm talking about, if I come over here to Firefox and I search for Big Bamboo Marketing, you'll see that my knowledge panel, the typical knowledge panel shows up here. But if you scroll down, because I am or Big Bamboo Marketing is a recognized entity, because a long time ago, years ago, I was actually able to add Big Bamboo Marketing as an entity to Freebase before Freebase got shut down to the public. And that was a semantic database that you could actually enter entity information in. So I was able to do that. And that's why Big Bamboo Marketing has it. So if I click on this, this will actually take me to the entity graph view. In other words, this is not showing that what we call the knowledge graph, but this is showing the entity graph, which is showing that this is an actual entity inside of the semantic web and Google semantic database. And if you take a look, excuse me, let me close out of this. You can see up in the, let's see, let me grab the share URL. We'll copy that. We'll go view that separately. Once again, you'll see the KGM ID is right there. So this is right there before the ampersand. If I copy that, it's the same as what you're seeing right here. See that? It's the same URL. So if we were to just close this down and go one more time with that, just that URL, and I don't know why it didn't actually pull it all the way through. Marco, do you know how to get the URL to appear as the knowledge graph from the KGM ID or the KG ID?
Yeah, if I go and look at my notes, I have somewhere how to get it.
Okay.
But
right,
I'm not going to go right now. You just did a great job of explaining how to do it. I'd be careful. I just tell people, be careful. That's your machine readable entity ID. You're fucking around with your entity when you're using that. Be careful what you do with your entity, the way that things are being looked at right now and seen right now, and the way that the algorithm is looking at your entity. So if you do anything to ambiguate your entity, you're in trouble. That's all I have to say. Just a word of warning for all you guys that are, you heard about this machine readable ID hack and this thing and what you can, all of these different things that you can do. Just make sure that you know exactly what it is that you're doing with that machine readable entity ID. That's your entity on the web as far as Google is concerned.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. I was able to enter in the Freebase back before they had shut it down to public editing. I was actually able to add it, and that's showing the MRE ID is the same as what I was just showing here. So you can see that that's what I've got right there.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, hopefully that was helpful. I don't know what you're going to do with it, but there you go. All right, next question. Happy New Year. Are the new G sites also sandboxed? What constitutes doing anything? Does it include a G drive assets and embedding them into the G site? Thank you. That's a good question for you, Marco.
G sites also sandboxed. I've never run into a G site being sandboxed. What constitutes anything? Does it include adding G drive assets? Yes, Bradley, you showed that. Adding them to the G site, not only that, but syndicating them through a syndication network. Bradley did that. And he's still ranking for SEO Virginia today, after all the updates. What during the last it's almost 5 years, right? This coming May.
Yeah.
And so it's still going strong. So yes, by all means, and not only do you embed them, mgyb.co is where Dedia, our master link builder, master spammer, master embedder, that's where he hangs out. Just go and get a gig from him because he knows exactly what to do with the embed URLs and with the iframe, actually, and then how to link build to it. So yeah, by all means, have at it.
I think what he's asking is like with, when it comes to a money site, if you make changes and it starts doing a Google dance and we're not supposed to touch it really for like 3 weeks while it's doing the dance. I think that's kind of what he's asking about. Are the new G sites also sandbox, meaning when they are doing the Google dance, should we not make any changes to them? But
I've never taken a look. I've never bothered. All rules are off. If you see a G site get permanently sandboxed, please let me know.
Yeah, and I don't think I don't know about sandbox being the proper term, but I know that G sites from the drive stacks typically, at least in my experience, for the first several weeks, they go in and out of the index, or they may remain indexed, but they won't be in the top 10 pages. And then it pops in and then it pops back out and pops in and pops back out. And it does that dance, that significant dance for the first several weeks, at least for most of the projects that I work on. I've noticed that. And so I don't know if that's technically the sandbox or if that's just the dance. I think that's more or less
that's a dance. A sandbox is when it'll hit a position, whatever it is, a lot of times second or third page, and you start hitting it with everything, because you're trying to get it to first page, and it won't move. It simply no matter what you do, it will not move. That's a sandbox. Or it just won't rank. That's different than seeing the ranking and then it goes off and then it comes back and then all of a sudden it's on the first page. Then it'll be on page 10. Then it'll look like it's been de-indexed. And then it finally settles in whatever place it's going to settle so that you can do whatever you want with it. We usually, once we're done hitting it with everything, we let it go for a while so that so that it simmers and cooks up really good. And then you have other URLs that you can target, that you can use for link building while that's going on. It's not necessary to continue hitting that G site over and over again. Although I can say from experience, they can hit it with literally anything and it'll take it like a champ.
Yeah. Please, sir, may I have some more? So, all right. That was a good question. Now, next one is, let's see. Happy New Year, Hump Day Hangouts. Awesome. He says, in a recent Hump Day Hangout, you spoke briefly on long form content is now preferred over shorter form content. Can you guys speak to that and what you see with that moving forward? Cheers. Okay. Yeah. So I think what you're talking about is years ago, the way that silo structure, the best way that silo structure, or when we would build silos out on a website, the best way to do it years ago was to separate each individual keyword out that you wanted to, optimize for, and try to rank a separate page or post for each keyword. So each post or page would be optimized primarily for one keyword, right? And so you might have, let's say that in, I don't know, we'll just use like tree removal as an example. That could be a potential silo, right? And so there might be, 5 different versions or variations of tree removal service, emergency tree removal, pine tree removal, dead tree removal, right? All of those could each be individual versions or variations of the tree removal keyword. So what we used to do is we would have, tree removal would be the primary, the top of the silo. So that would be the broadest of keywords. So we would put that at the top of the silo. And then for each and every one of those supporting keywords that I was just talking about, longer tailed versions of it, we would have a separate post for each one of those, optimized specifically for that phrase. And all of those would obviously link back to the top of silo. So the silo landing page, which would be tree removal. However, what happened is because those keyword themes are so closely related, it kind of created redundancy within the silo, right? A lot of the times the same things would be said over and over and over again. And it's, because it was the same theme, right? The same topic. And they were so closely related that it just didn't, it used to work really well. But what I found was after, I don't know, one of the Panda updates, I think it was around 2015 timeframe, that longer form content seemed to work better. In other words, instead of creating separate pages or posts for each and every keyword that you want to rank for, you would put all of your closely related keywords within a particular theme onto one long form page, which would be the top of silo. So in this case, tree removal, the page, which would be the top of silo, would include all of those other keywords in there. And so the content itself could be a lot longer. It could be, we used to do 800 to 1,000 words for the top of silo, and now it could be 2,500 words for the top of silo page. And then what happens is, what I recommend is having sections, so heading sections within the content where you have, you're optimizing for each one of those variations. So now you've got one really like authoritative piece of content that includes your primary keyword as well as all of the supporting keywords. Then if you need any additional push for for that page in particular, or for any one of the supporting keywords, then you can always do a post within that silo, within that category, that's optimized for whatever keyword it is that you need the additional push for. But my point is, instead of having, 5 or 6 articles top of silo with 4 or 5 supporting articles that are all basically saying the same thing anyways, you put it all into one long form copy or one long form page that mentions all of those other keywords. You break it out into logical sections. You can even put a table of content or jump links at the top of it if it's really long, right? Those work really well too, so that somebody could click on it and it would jump them down to that section on the page. Then what happens is you rank that, or publish that page, give it some time, see where that settles in. If you need any additional push for any of the keywords that you're trying to rank for on that page, then that's when you can publish blog posts within that silo to link back to that page. And remember, if you put a table of contents in with jump links to each one of the sections, the heading sections on that long form page, if you're doing a blog post to push one of those keywords from, one of those supporting keywords, you can link back directly to that jump link too. So now you're getting, links built to the jump link through that keyword onto that primary page, if that makes sense. So, once that kind of shift occurred and it went from doing everything where all pages were singularly optimized for one keyword to the longer form stuff, I've had a lot of, over the years, I even took sites that started to perform, didn't perform as good as they used to, and consolidated content into one page and actually seen a ranking boost from that. So that's what I was saying about going forward. I think Google doesn't like thin content pages. You guys should all know that. And so when you optimize these pages or posts for one singular keyword and it's kind of thin on content, you're better off developing a much more thorough piece of content that connects all of those dots together, if that makes sense. Any comment on that? No? Okay.
No.
I'm good.
I didn't know if anybody else wanted to comment on that. All right. So Austin Don is up. He says, one of my clients just recently brought on a social media person. Today, that person tells me that he doesn't want me to post blog posts, videos, or anything else to any of the social media platforms. He says blog posts should stay on the blog. What's the best way for me to respond to this ridiculous demand? Yeah, that's.
I clicked to Jordan. If you scroll down real quick or check it out, you can check out Jordan's response. I think that's pretty good. But
yeah, I agree. I read that earlier. Jordan says go one level higher than him or her and tell their boss why it's vital. If the social media person won't listen, why would you write content you wouldn't amplify? And I agree with that. I would say the same thing as far as what Jordan says. Is I would go above them. I mean, you remember that whoever hired you for doing SEO hired you to do SEO. They didn't hire the social media person to do SEO. They hired you to do SEO, and social media plays a part in SEO. So, but SEO doesn't typically play a part in social media. In other words, you should be using social media to amplify, to promote the content that you produce because it helps with SEO. But the social media person doesn't have to really do anything for SEO. So my point is, you need. I agree with what Jordan said. Is go back to the person that hired you, and say that to them. Say, you hired me to do SEO. This helps with SEO. I understand your social media person wants to control all the social media. That's fine, but I would have the content get sent to them and make sure that they're publishing it then, at least, if nothing else. But again, I would remind the owner, the business owner, that the reason why they hired you is for your expertise and what kind of results you can achieve.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with what the guys are saying here. I would say that there are a couple of things that will impact the reach on, for instance, a Facebook post. So there are a couple of things that you can do, or that social media person could do, to actually still get content to the page and still get you the SEO benefits. For instance, if you're posting a link on Facebook, you know how the Open Graph will, you know, Facebook will go in and crawl the Open Graph. So it will bring the image, the title, and the description of the page, right? And if you have like a little bit of body copy and then you have the link and whatnot, that gets, let's say, X amount of reach. But if instead of doing that, you upload an image to Facebook and you keep everything else the same, you still put the link in there, it won't be a link post, it will be an image post, and that will boost the reach that those publications have. You still have that link going to that page from a social media post, but without interfering with the reach. So they're like a little bit of common ground. And at the end of the day, if you're talking about promotion, if you're talking about branding, you want to work hand in hand with this person, you know, because at the end of the day, that person is trying to get buyers, leads, whatever, sellers on social media, while you're trying to get them on Google. And at the end of the day, you know, you need to be working together, if that makes sense. So I do agree with that.
I would actually be a little more radical. Surprise, surprise. But that to me, this is tofu. Austin, this is Austin Don. If you're getting results and you've steadily been getting results through whatever it is that you do, and then comes the social media person, brand new, telling you what to do, then do the Jordan. But not only that, you go to the person that's above that, or the person who you sign the contract with, the person who you deal with, and you say, look, I'm getting you results. You want me to continue getting results, get this person out of my way. Figure out another way to get this person in. As Hernan said, baby, you can cooperate, but never with this person telling you what to do. As Bradley said, social media person does not know SEO. They think that they do, and they think that they're God's gift to the SEO world, but they're not. They know how to be social. Your job is to get results, not to really be social, although it is part of the job, and you should have someone for that. To me, yes, it's going a step above, or to whoever it is that you need to go to. If you want me to keep getting results, I need this person out of my way. And if you don't, then I just walk away, because I can't work like this.
Yeah.
This is not how I work. This is not, when you and I talked, this was not part of the deal. Part of the, and if this is going to include me having to go with this person and teach this person SEO, then I'm going to have to charge a whole lot more money for a consultation, because that's not in the work description. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I would say if the social media person doesn't want your posts being automatically published to the social media channels, that's fine. You know, there can be a compromise. The compromise should be, in that case, that the content still gets published to social media channels, but it gets done manually, so the social media person can dress it up, pretty it up, do whatever they want to do to it. But it should still be posted, is the point, right? So I agree with what Marco said. You know, you'd have to say, look, this wasn't part of the arrangement when we set the terms of our agreement, and now you've thrown this into the mix. So we're going to have to, you know, either rework the agreement, or we're going to have to bring it back to what was originally agreed to. I agree with what Marco says. Okay, so the next question is, I signed up for the SEO Shield for a new project that will be going live in a couple of weeks. Is there a list of deliverables that I need to provide for your VAs to build it out? Whatever's in the order sheet. I mean, you place the order, but then when you go to submit the details for the order, it's whatever's in there. Do we have a pre-populated list of requirements for these things, guys?
Yeah, the best way is what you said, Bradley. Maybe we're working on getting a little bit better information for you, so you see that before. But yeah, the process there is to just make it streamlined. So you order, and then once you go into your dashboard at mgyb.co, you can go in and it'll have everything listed out that you need to provide. So I didn't see who asked that, but yeah, that's the process. If you then have questions, you know, feel free to reach out to support, and you know, we'll point you in the right direction. But
yeah, I'm thinking we should maybe at some point put on the sales page like a link to a PDF that shows what's needed or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's in the works. It's probably going to be in the next 30, 60 days. We're going to do videos so they can be updated, because, you know, as things go along, you know, maybe we change something, the way something's done, but yeah, we'll have that set up. Okay, cool.
They can just write to support at mgyb.co, since this is what support is for, right? These questions. This doesn't involve SEO or any SEO advice. It's okay. So how does the order work? How does the ordering process work? What do I need to provide? That's perfect, because Rusail is awesome in answering those types of questions. And if she has questions, then she'll come to either Rob or me and ask us for input on how she should answer. So by all means, write to support. Rusail is great. She's doing a fantastic job. And I just wanted to make it public that and as a matter of fact, let me give a shout out New Year to Chris Greenhow, who has been with Semantic Mastery support for seems like forever. And we don't ever run into support issues because he can usually just deal with everything, and he knows how to contact us and get everything done. I mean, I think we have a really smooth system, and we have some great people with great people skills. So shout out to our support board, both at Semantic Mastery and at MGYB.
Yeah, and God bless Chris for being that guy, because the support guy. I've attempted to do it like once or twice in my career, and I don't know how anybody can be a support person. So he's worth his weight in gold. All right, the next question is from Nathan. He says, when siloing GMB posts, how many do you typically use for each silo? As many as it takes, Nathan. Do you try to limit silos to 5 to 10 posts? No, I mean, there's no reason to limit it. There's no reason to limit a number of posts within a silo that I'm aware of. Okay. So there's no like hard limit as to number of posts. It's just as many as you need, really. And that would be the same for the next question. When siloing website posts or pages, do you try to limit those to a certain number of pages or posts, or do you continue siloing until you run out of content related to the top level keyword? Well, I mean, yeah, there's no limit to that either. And here's the thing, again, I always do what's necessary to get results. Sometimes you'll be able to get results with just a couple of, maybe 2, or sometimes you don't need any supporting posts at all. But within a proper silo, it would have supporting posts. And sometimes I'll get results with 2 or 3 posts. And other times it might take 20, it just depends. And it's not, you could run out of keywords, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't publish additional blog posts with the same keywords, right? Just you say things in a different way. That's why I like curated content so well, because curated content, you're using other people's content to to publish a post, right? Where you're highlighting you're highlighting other people's opinions or content about a particular topic or subject. And so that's why I like curating, because if, like, let's say that you've got 6 keywords in a silo, right? Then if you had a blog post published for each one of those keywords, so your top level keyword and 5 supporting posts, and then you'd run out of content, you wouldn't, if you just did 1 piece of content per keyword, then you'd be out after 5. But if you didn't get the results that you needed, you should continue publishing posts within that silo. So that's why, again, curated content works so well, because each time you're publishing a post, you're pulling in other people's content. So you don't really have to come up with original content, is my point. All you got to do is come up with an idea for a post, and then go find content to support, or to either to support your opinion or to object to the opinion that and sometimes those make really good posts too, like argumentative posts, right? Where you show like a differing opinion, right? So you show both sides of it. But that's what I like about that, because with a good VA, a good VA doesn't have to be a subject matter expert. All they have to do is be able to locate good content about a particular topic, and then put it together in a blog post with some commentary injected in between each piece of curated content. And that's all that's needed, right? So you can produce content very quickly. It's much better because it's usually you're citing, right? You're citing other subject matter experts. Instead of trying to be a subject matter expert, all you're doing is locating content written or developed by subject matter experts, and then using that in a post where you're injecting some commentary, and that's about it. Okay. So again, it's not any certain number of it. I always like to do as many as it takes to get results, period. All right. Wayne, Social Buzz Me. That's Wayne. He says, so true. What's up, Wayne? Happy New Year, by the way. He says, social media people do not know how to get traffic. If you believe that, then you believe everyone on Instagram is rich, skinny, and pretty. And social Wayne also says plumbers cannot do the work of a contractor. Social media people are the plumbers. They can get your shit moving, but they can't build or rebuild. Okay. All right. I think we had a couple of other questions that Adam pointed out from the Facebook group earlier. So let's go.
Yeah, those are in Slack if you want to open them, or I can.
I've got them here.
All right.
I've got them here. All right. So the first one was Patrick Smith. He says, I was brought up in SEO hearing that citations and backlinks were the best ways to assess how competitive a niche is, since that was all you had to do besides a solid site to rank. Since that is obviously not true, what exactly should I look for when assessing a niche for something like lead gen? That's a good question. You know, obviously backlinks and citations play a role, but when you're talking about local stuff too, especially when you're talking about GMB stuff now, remember proximity is a big issue, which is specifically what Local Lease Pro was all about, was finding a way to get GMB assets verified for exact locations that you wanted to get leads from, right? So that we were basically playing with the proximity issue as opposed to fighting it, right? By just getting more GMBs. But that's not really, I mean, although I do understand that it's apparently the Google wrath may be over when it comes to suspending GMBs. At least that's what I'm hearing. I'm not going to confirm that, but that's what I'm hearing. So it may be that we're going to be able to start doing that again soon. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. I think Marco would be better at just explaining this, which is what he started to do in the thread anyways. But there's a lot of things that you can look at. I don't look at third-party metrics that much anymore. They can certainly play a role, but you know, looking at the number of citations or the number of backlinks or the quality of backlinks isn't necessarily going to mean that you going to determine your competitive level. Because if you have your entity correct, which is what we've been teaching, right? And Marco can talk more about this, but if you have your entity correct and you're on page tight, you can outrank many different competitors that might have a shit ton of backlinks, but they don't have their entity right, or they have an ambiguated entity. In other words, there's some sort of vagueness about the entity. So you can come in with a fraction of any off-page work and outrank it. And again, like Marco points out in his thread, if you look at what Jeffrey Smith has been able to do with strictly on-page and developing the entities correctly, he can outrank massive authority sites with no backlinks. And it's all because he knows how to do that. So Marco, what would you say about that?
I would say exactly that. And like, okay, so we could at Semantic Mastery teach an on-page SEO course and siloing and interlinking and everything else. But we have Jeffrey Smith, and I hate reinventing the wheel. And what I would do is go and try to copy what he did, because to me, he's the master at this. I mean, well, why would I go and try to outdo the master unless I could? In which case, I'd go and tell him, hey, Jeffrey, which we often do, try this and see how that does with whatever it is that you're doing, and then get back to me, or just whatever we can think of. But in these terms, it's the wheel is already invented, and nobody has come up with anything better. There's nothing better than SEO Ultimate Bootcamp as far as doing your market research, the top level categories, and how to determine top level categories, how to find them, and then the supporting, and then everything else that you need to do in order to do what it is that Jeffrey does, which is, as you said, outrank others with just the way that he sets up his websites. And it's just, of course, the training of it is lesson intensive, and there is a learning curve, and he goes into some terms that you really have to think about. But having said that, dude, nothing beats what Jeffrey has done. I wouldn't even try. I don't care to try, because most of the stuff that I do is off page anyway. So this is a perfect complement to what we do off page.
Yeah, I would agree that what Jeffrey has been able to, or his course his on-page course, SEO Bootcamp, it's fabulous, guys. It's incredible that's why we didn't end up ever creating an on-page course, because there was no reason to try to compete with what Jeffrey put together. It's fabulous. So we've just been promoting his ever since ever since we saw it. So I would highly recommend you do that, because again, if you have your on-page right and your entity information correct, you can outrank with a fraction of the off-page stuff. You can outrank, even fierce competitors. And so that's the important thing. And then if you're using the entity, the SEO shield, which is like your entity loop, right? So all of that stuff you create this entity and you have all of your tier 1 branded entity assets, and you use those as your SEO shield. Then you can just hammer that stuff with our link building packages from MGYB. And even though your money site won't show backlinks like your competitors do, because you're not building directly to your money site, you'll still outrank them. Does that make sense? And that's why looking at those third-party tools for number of citations and for backlinks, backlink analysis doesn't necessarily mean anything, because you can end up outranking them with only a mere fraction of what those numbers are showing, because you're doing all of your external SEO to your SEO shield as opposed directly to your money site. If that makes sense. So,
I've talked about what Dedia shared in the mastermind, and in RYS Academy. I think he shared it there too, where he's doing a case study on it's something in e-commerce. I can't say the niche, right? You know how people are, and this is a client of his. But I mean, for a fraction of the money that these big players in the industry are paying for marketing, he's able to go in there and to just take clients away, take money away from these people who are spending not hundreds of thousands a month, maybe millions a month for this niche. So you were talking about Amazon, Lowe's, Walmart, you name it. They're in this space, and he's in there. He's in there fighting it out, and eventually he'll be able to practically own the niche, which is incredible. For $1,200, when you can do it for $1,200, go in there and compete for your top level category. I don't know anything else that you could do to match that. Add to that the entity, the branding course that Bradley did, where you do the paid ads and you send traffic, targeted traffic that's niche specific and hyper targeted to whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's local or whether it's for your brand. And that's money. It's money in the bank. I think Patrick is in the mastermind, isn't he? No. He said he plans to be. But you should be in the mastermind, because all of these things are available in the mastermind. How it's done. The how is in the mastermind.
Yeah. Okay. We're almost out of time. This one is from Patrick. He says, heard that Local Lease Pro is no longer offered as a standalone course, in part due to the way Google's GMB policies have changed recently, and I was directed to Local GMB Pro as the replacement. Question is about why Local Lease Pro method is no longer recommended. And that's precisely why, Patrick, is what I was just talking about earlier, was the fact that because what we were doing is getting spammed GMB listings. Like, in other words, GMB listings that didn't actually exist. There wasn't enough physical location for that business, essentially. And the problem was that it became a lot harder to get them. And also, or once you would get them, they would get suspended easily. And that was because Google had been on a rampage for several months about just cracking down on GMB spam. So we got away from doing that because it was getting too hard. Like, we don't want to teach people how to do stuff that is going to, like rework, right? Go out and build GMBs or buy GMBs, and then you start building them out and they get suspended. Now you've wasted time and you've wasted money, right? And so I don't like to, we don't like to teach stuff that's going to require like churn and burn strategy. That's nothing, it's not anything I've ever liked to do. I don't like to build my business on stuff that potentially I could lose. You know what I mean? I like to do work once and have it pay me over and over and over again. So that's part of the reason we got away from suggesting it, was because of it was getting too hard to get spam GMBs, or if you were able to get them, they were too easily suspended, right? So we kind of switched back to going to what we had originally been teaching, which was the Local GMB Pro method, which is how to get the best results from a GMB. And even overcome the proximity issue. Although that is a lot stricter now than it was when we first developed it. I know you can still get over the proximity issue. There's no doubt you can overpower that, but it does require more than it used to overcome that, because the proximity issue, the proximity filter for GMB is a lot tighter now than it used to be. It's a lot stricter. Okay. He says, if I got the local GMB Pro, would I still be able to accomplish the same kind of business model, which is quick map ranking without site and simple flat fee rental using the local GMB process? I'd really like to be able to outsource almost all of the GMB ranking process to MGYB and follow a repeatable process to stack success. Thank you. Yeah, of course, MGYB local GMB Pro would still teach you how to rank any GMB that you get. So it would be up to you to get the GMBs, whether you're doing that in a legit manner, which means you're getting an actual address somewhere where you can verify it, get a postcard sent to so you can verify it, or if you can buy GMBs if you can buy GMBs that get verified from somewhere, like you used to be able to from us, and you want to get the best results from those GMBs, local GMB Pro will absolutely teach you how to do that. A lot of the stuff that we're going to tell you to do to rank a GMB is going to be stuff that we sell in MGYB anyways, right? Which is the SEO Shield, essentially your entity loop. All of that should be done. RYS, Drive Stacks, all of those things can all help to rank a GMB, whether it has a self-hosted website or not. It doesn't matter, right? We can get results with just a GMB and the GMB website. But it still kind of includes all the other stuff that we were talking about, our SEO Shield stuff, if that makes sense. You want to comment on that, Marco?
No, that was fine.
Okay. So yeah, as far as outsourcing all that stuff, I mean, again, local GMB Pro was it was a lot more in depth. It was more for more competitive GMBs. So in other words, if you like local lease Pro was all about trying to find and identify the really easy map ranking opportunities. And then, so you would go out and let's say, you register 20 GMBs across a metropolitan area. And out of those, 8 out of those 20 might rank overnight with little to no work at all because of the proximity issue. And you were able to just hit all, check all the boxes to rank really well because you found low competition, not very many other businesses registered in the same zip code, all that kind of stuff. But with the local GMB Pro method, it's about whatever GMBs that you have getting the best results, even in very, very competitive areas. It's how to get results from those GMBs. If that makes sense. Okay. All right. I think we're about wrapped up. The last one I would say, Daniel, I see that you just recently joined the mastermind. This is a question he has about some locations, some siloing for a service area business with both service silos and location silos. And Daniel, I recently had been talking in the mastermind about how to create location-based silos using tags. And it's not the traditional silo method. It's a bit different than what you would be used to. And I've talked about that in mastermind webinars, multiple mastermind webinars. And in fact, there's a post where I replied to one of the other members in the mastermind recently. I think it's Mandy, where I pointed out the lesson URLs where I talked about location siloing using tags. So just go do a search inside the Semantic Mastery Mastermind Facebook group and you'll find it. Okay. And then just go watch those and you'll see that in my opinion that's how I've been doing all of my service area business websites whenever I have location-based silos, I've been using the tag method for, I don't know, about a year and a half now. So go take a look at those and you'll see what I'm talking about.
We have AI and Bert working inside the Semantic Mastery video archives, our mastermind video archive, so he can just go use the search function and look for whatever it is that he's interested in siloing, just whatever it is, type it in. It's one of the modules. It says search 119, I think it is 120, whatever it is, it's in there. You just go in there, type the keyword that you're looking for, and you're going to get everything associated with that keyword. So use it.
Yeah. All right. The last question, and we're going to wrap it up because it's 5 o'clock, is he says, can you rank a Google site without a GMB? Rank and rent without a client until a site is rented? Sure, you can. I mean, you can rank a Google site. If you're talking about sites.google.com, yes, you can also rank a GMB, right? If you go out and create a fake GMB listing with a generic company name or whatever, you can rank that. Again, you can rank. I mean, you don't have to have a client to do that. That's how I got started in this business. So I would rank stuff, including maps listings. And then once they would rank and start generating leads, then I would call what the type of business that it was for, and then try to find somebody that was willing to. At the time, I just did flat fee rentals, lease on a monthly basis before I switched into pay per lead or equity share, or revenue share, I should say. So anyways, yeah, you can absolutely do that. That said,
you just can't rank in the 3-pack, right?
Without a map GMB.
Yeah, right. You need a map.
Yeah.
You need that GMB listing.
That's correct. So, all right, everybody. Well, thanks for being here. Happy New Year to you all. We will see you guys next week.
See you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.